Welcome to the Page One Podcast, a podcast featuring a variety of guests and thought leaders on topics ranging from digital marketing, sales channel strategies, influencer marketing, best-in-class product launches, and all the details about how to accelerate sales. Now, here's your host, Luke Peters.
Thanks for joining us on the Page One Podcast. I'm your host, Luke Peters, CEO of Newer Appliances and Retail Band Digital Strategy Agency. We're now in a coronavirus world, and I know that's on everyone's mind. So I'm going to adapt all these interviews to ensure that you listeners are getting the most out of this podcast. And you can expect us to get right to the point and provide valuable insights with a focus on COVID-19 impacts. Before I get to that, business owners, how are your digital sales performing? Probably good right now during COVID-19, but do you wish you had someone to create a custom strategic plan to grow your online sales and then show you how to execute it with the team that you have? That's what I do. So if you're interested and you want to grow your digital sales, find me on LinkedIn or email me at luke@retailband.com and I'll take it from there. In this episode, you're going to learn from Hannah Robbins, an expert in branding. Learn that with COVID-19 and why it's more important than ever to create an authentic and transparent marketing message for your customers, and then how to win more reviews from millennials. Hannah's a CPG marketing executive with 25 years experience, a founding board member of the Women's Professional Network in Chicago, has a proven track record for developing and implementing world-class disruptive marketing strategies. Her career includes work with some of America's leading brands such as Maple Hill Creamery, Coca-Cola, Whole Foods Market, Amazon, Kraft, Sara Lee, ConAgra, Walgreens, 3M, and SC Johnson. Wow, Hannah, you've got an amazing profile there. Thanks for joining us here on the Page One Podcast.
Thanks, Luke, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome. Did I miss anything or you want to add anything from that intro?
I don't think so. I think the only thing that I would add is that I've been very privileged to work with some incredibly iconic brands. And I think that the one thread throughout all of those is that I have really coined myself to be a commercially savvy marketer. As I self-style is called an entrepreneur. So I take sort of an unconventional corporate perspective, looking at both big brands and small brands and helping all types of entrepreneurs and startups really use best-in-class marketing platforms to accelerate their growth.
Great. And then so for today's conversation, we'll kind of focus on the audience, which is, a lot of home and hardware and houseware brands and, probably mostly under 250 million. So, smaller and mid-sized companies. And it sounds like you have experience all over the place, but why don't we start with, so right now you are working, I think like sort of as a fractional CMO, it might be referred to differently, but working with other companies or other clients. How has coronavirus impacted those clients? What are you guys thinking and doing right now?
Yeah. So, as we all know right now, COVID-19 is a moving, every day things are changing and new news is coming into the marketplace. I think the number one thing that we're hearing across the board and that I'm seeing and observing with clients and colleagues is to be flexible and adaptable and to, respond with your heart and to be as adjustable as you can and flexible as you can in your planning and in your offering. That seems to be kind of the name of the game right now, is to be flexible, adaptable, and really to be listening to what consumers are saying and what the marketplace is asking for.
Yeah. And does that, now since COVID-19 is so big, does that mean that it should probably be in your marketing message because it's on everyone's mind? Or is that going to become just COVID-19 overload if everything, people are trying to sell products and they bring in COVID-19 into it somehow?
So I think it's a multi-pronged approach. I've observed that there are some brands out there that aren't even mentioning the fact that there are things going on like COVID-19. And that seems to be very insensitive and is actually having a negative impact on those brands. So companies and brands that can embrace the impact of COVID-19 on people's individual lives, whether that be pantry loading, changing the way they shop, changing the way they think about meal planning, changing and shifting their home routines, their work routines. I think being sensitive to the way that people are living their lives right now is paramount. And if you aren't addressing that, you look insensitive as a brand. And I think that that's going to be something that consumers moving forward will remember which of those brands were here for me and which of those brands were not.
Makes a lot of sense. What about, now let me ask you about a tough one, or this is like a tricky one. What about, obviously this is a very serious thing. It's a pandemic, but there's also ways that brands could have let's say, fun with it or at least humor with it. Is that risky? Like, what if, a company did a wrap, a product wrap, like a, design wrap around their product, but that referenced COVID-19 or coronavirus in a humorous way, or like Corona, obviously the beer company is going to have to do something with it. Are those things, like in your experience, is that too risky and not worth it? Or can those things work out pretty good?
In what I've observed, I believe that humor should be left in an independent nature, and that depending on the brand, most brands probably don't have a humorous tone and nature to them. If your brand, and we'll get into this a little bit as we continue our conversation, being authentically your brand and authentically the service that you offer, if you are authentically a humorous brand, there may be a way that you can tie that in to potentially a family routine or something going on with your kids, or maybe a way to kind of turn breakfast upside down on Saturdays and Sundays if it's a meal solution. So I think that there are some very subtle ways that you can do it, but I think you've got to be very careful about being insensitive to the serious nature of what we're up against.
Yeah, it makes a lot. It's a big risk. It always is. But yeah, I like the way that you explain that. And let's talk about that. You talk about brands being authentic. So kind of moving on into just branding and, what makes an authentic brand? I know there's foundation and value proposition, but, I'd love to hear you speak to that.
Sure. So, we all have lots of brands that we love and adore and treasure and would pay a premium for, or when we would go to an alternate retailer if the brand that we choose and our favorite brand is not available. And one of the reasons for that, the main reasons for that, is a generally conscious effort that the brand has made to be authentic about who they are to their core target audience. And what I mean by that is, if we look at a brand, let's use a brand, Vineyard Vines, which is a lifestyle clothing brand for men, women, and children, and also for outdoor lifestyle. They have made a very conscious effort to have a specific personality, a specific tone and manner, a specific look and feel, and the way that they communicate in their stores, the employees in the stores, on their website, on their social channels, on Facebook, on Instagram. And in all their communication, it's just always very consistent. And that is the true essence of an authentic brand. Vineyard Vines and other brands, even brands, big brands like Coca-Cola, they're very clear about what the brand represents. And when you are not clear about what the brand represents, people don't take the brand seriously, and which drives to lack of brand loyalty. And so I think what all brands seek to have is superior brand loyalty. And that is driven by being an authentic brand in all of your communication.
Great. And I like that last part, be clear about what your brand represents. And the other thing was consistent communication. We hear a lot about that, but it's hard. You have different people creating you kind of have to have, I guess we all need brand guidelines, right? So it's really clear what companies are, how they can be consistent. Is that something, that you've worked with or put together, and how should smaller companies, think about when brand guidelines?
So yes, and it's definitely something that I am very passionate about and have been passionate about for 25 years. And it is even more important for smaller brands too to be consistent. And as that brand is building their fans and building loyalty base, that retailers who sell them both e-com and brick and mortar are always looking for brand leaders who are consistent in the way they communicate. And it's very, it is very important to have sort of an owner of the brand. And generally that's a marketing function. And that's someone who understands the visual cues for the brand, who defines the content, the way the brand is communicated, the text that's actually used, the pictures, the formatting, the style. All of those things need to be consistent across all those platforms. And there really needs to be one central person or a central team that owns that brand playbook, so to speak. And it's very important for small brands to do it. And there's a lot of entrepreneurs that have an incredible idea, an incredible brand, an incredible product, but lack the ability to be able to see it from the consumer lens, and to see how when they communicate that it really just needs to be consistent.
And what if a brand isn't doing that. And of course, they all want to start doing it. Where do they start? Like, how do you, and I know some of this is probably has to come from, say, the founder, maybe not though. It'd be great to hear your point of it, but like, say a brand isn't there, and I'm sure, and I know the truth is a lot of brands already have that message underneath them, because we're all companies are unique in a lot of different ways. But like, is there a certain exercise or a way to kind of establish a clear positioning that then could lead to a branding message?
Yes. And that is also something that I've worked very passionately across many different brands, small brands, starter brands, fighter brands across my career. And really what you start with is you start with two things. You start with what is the product or service offering, and how is that product or service offering different or better than something else, than other competitors, and who is your target audience. And oftentimes who you may think your target audience is, or who your target audience started out to be, may not be what represents the largest source of revenue and loyal fans moving forward. And when you combine those insights, those true insights of what's the core value, what's the core nugget of your product or service, and how does that play into the largest revenue source for your growing volume for scaling your company, and you combine those together, is how you get that brand positioning and how you get that value differentiation. And that can be done through very quick surveys online. It can be done through focus groups. And it could also be done through, consumer insights that you have from your social media venues. So there's a variety of different ways, both first party and second party research that you can use to develop what those core insights are to drive what that moving forward scalable positioning should be.
Awesome. That makes a lot of sense. What are, along the same lines, what are some, thinking about brand authenticity and then also still about positioning, what are some themes maybe that people can think about that have worked? And I know, there's just been a lot of themes as far as, Tom shoes and, buy a pair, give a pair, or sell a pair, give a pair. And that's happened, in the eyeglass industry. And then that kind of became, at least from my perspective, that was a key part of their brand. And then, other brands will have some charitable ties and other brands might have different ties. Is there like a way to kind of theme a few different categories that brands seem to be successful, in positioning? Does anything stand out on your side?
So what you're relaying to, right, is the theme of giving back, right? So there's a theme of giving back.
Yep.
There's a theme of supporting the environment and being the halo of healthy environment, safety, regenerative agriculture, theme of sustainability, theme of product innovation, right? A new idea, a new concept for your home or for your lifestyle. And I think all of those are great, right? They're all tremendous umbrellas, and we give a lot of credit to those companies that do this great work. But the bottom line is if your product or service does not perform well, it doesn't matter, because you could be, you could have, for example, let's use Tom's shoes that you brought up, right? So that's a great example of giving back, supporting livelihood of underprivileged communities, and giving back shoes to those that need them. However, if the shoe doesn't perform, the shoe itself, it's not comfortable, it's too expensive, it doesn't fit into your everyday lifestyle, then the platform of giving back doesn't succeed over time. So you first have to start with what is the core product you're offering and make sure that it delivers what it says it delivers. If it's a food item or a beverage item or a consumption item, that it tastes good. For example, the brand, a brand where I was recently the CMO, Maple Hill Creamery, is a phenomenal product. The number one selling grass-fed organic milk at Whole Foods and Amazon Fresh. However, if the product doesn't taste good and doesn't deliver on the promise of the best tasting milk, then the attributes behind it of supporting regenerative agriculture and sustainability don't necessarily tie together, because people aren't going back to purchase your product, right? Because the whole idea is to drive loyalty and drive repeat purchase.
Yeah. And that's always been true. So it's a great way to put it. If the product doesn't perform well, none of this branding or marketing is going to matter. And, but at the same time, I like how you kind of laid out the different positioning options, and it's been kind of fun to follow some of those companies and see where they've gone, or, some better and some not. But yeah, they kind of picked a position and they used that across all of their marketing channels. And it just like gave them kind of a blue ocean in a way. And now I guess it's done more often, but some of those, brands that were early to it kind of had a massive, advantage at the beginning, so to say. Tell us about maybe a story. I'd love to hear a story, maybe of a company you've worked with or worked for, and, maybe quick start to finish on how a brand was revitalized.
Sure. So I'll use Maple Hill Creamery, as I mentioned, where I was most recently chief marketing officer there. And when we came into the brand was in a scale-up strategy, and the brand was in a couple thousand doors, and the goal was to expand and to 10, 12, 15,000 doors, and to scale the company to be the number one grass-fed organic milk in the United States. And the brand was really being targeted to a niche group in the natural food segment. So your original co-op shoppers, your original small natural grocery stores, and also a very regional base, mainly in New England. The brand started in upstate New York with milk coming from about 150 family farms in upstate New York. And incredible proposition, incredible regenerative agriculture story around what's best for the land, what's best for the animal. 100% grass-fed organic cow lives 3 times longer than a conventional cow. And all of the land is used basically in a regenerative form. However, the marketing and packaging and all of the communication, the brand playbook, and this is a small, entrepreneurial startup founder-based company, was all geared towards a very niche consumer. And so what we did was we went in and we took a hard look at all of the consumer elements and realized that there was this mass audience of millennial moms with kids ages 0 to 6 across the country in major metro markets, that there was a big opportunity to scale this company and to scale it to, more doors, more facings across retailers in the United States, both brick and mortar and online. And so, as I mentioned before, we did a playbook analysis of, who's the core target audience to grow and scale the company. Where does the largest source of revenue, where's that going to come from? And also, what was the core differentiation and core value of the product, and how do those two line up? And then we did testing on visual imagery, pictures of cows, pictures of farms, pictures of farmers. We did research on the right text and content, how to talk about the brand, what was most compelling, what was the shortest way to communicate the value of 100% grass-fed organic milk. And so we took that research and we changed packaging, updated all the packaging visuals, updated the website, updated social channels, Instagram, Facebook, updated the way that the brand is communicated in the e-com ecosystem on Amazon.com, Target.com, and so forth. And seen tremendous success from consumers across America, millennial moms primarily, who are, voting with their wallet, that they understand the brand, they see the value in the brand, and understand the proposition and importance of 100% grass-fed dairy.
Well, that's a great story. I mean, it was very strategic. I mean, you're doing image testing and text research. So are you able to talk about the results? Like what type of before and after, and how long of a process was this start to finish?
Yeah. So, going back over the course of my career, right, I've gone through these types of exercises where it can be 6 months to 12 months, right, to go through an exercise like this. In the case of Maple Hill, there wasn't that kind of time, and it's a smaller, entrepreneurial scale-up strategy. So, this was over a couple of months to do this research. And it was, fast and furious. And I would say for most smaller companies and entrepreneurial-based companies, it shouldn't be more than a couple of months to do the background work. And, we tested things like, for example, and I can share something, for example, when you talk about imagery of a farm and you talk about grass-fed milk, right? There were so many different ways you could show it. You could show it a picture of a farmer milking a cow, kids on a farm, a picture of a farm, a picture of a barn, a picture of cows, a picture of a baby cow and her mother, right? So you get the idea. There's a lot of different visual cues that you could use to illustrate grass, 100% grass-fed organic milk coming from family farms. And the research came back and said that the number one way that resonated with consumers was to show a picture of a cow, a very upfront, close, and personal picture of a cow with the cow's name and the cow's location of the farm and the city and state where it's from. And if you look at Maple Hill packaging now on shelf across, most major retailers across the U.S., you will see imagery of a prominent cow, and there's different cows with different types of milk, whole and 2%, with the name of the farm and the location, the city and state of where that cow is located. And people they wanted a one-on-one connection with their milk, and it stood out from everything else that was on the shelf. And that's a big differentiator too with a lot of companies is that I think people underplay the value of packaging on shelf because that's your number one way to communicate.
Well, that's a great story. And it sounds like I can see why that resonates. So, it's more personalized, maybe not personalized, but maybe specific, and they can put a name or a face, say, on the cow and,
right.
in location, there's more, I guess it's more tangible when you think about it that way. So yeah, that's a great description. Kind of giving examples of what it could have been and what you ended up with and the time frame of just a couple months, which I think it's really appealing because think about it. We got, a lot of business owners listening, businesses mostly under 250 million in sales. And, most of them probably a lot smaller than that, under, 50 or under 30 million. So when you're that size, you don't have a year to put in, a branding plan or to pivot like that. So, you guys are able to do all this research and, come up with your final packaging. But then from that, how did you do the marketing? Like still is, you do this packaging and I guess for, an in-store product, that is going to be a massive amount of your marketing because customers are going to see it, but still you had to expand the reach. So did you guys use a lot of social media or content marketing, or how did you get the message out to more people? Because it sounds like you started with a very niche market and then you wanted to expand out to these moms that are out in the suburbs.
Absolutely. And expansion was key. It is key always, right? So one of the main things is that a lot of companies in the, $25 to $75 million revenue range don't have big budgets, right? So you got to maximize your budget. So we did really a two-pronged approach. One was we did social and digital programming, programmatic programming to cities around the country that had the highest propensity of our millennial mom target and where our core retailers were. So what that means was we could target specific demographics in specific cities around the country that would be the highest source of revenue to grow volume and sales. So that was one piece. And we did that with new content, with relevant content. And we also did, new visuals that all connected back to the packaging. So all of that was consistent. The other piece that we did was we really ramped up retailer-focused programs. So specific for Amazon Fresh, specific for Whole Foods, specific for Target.com, specific for Publix. So we took major retailers, and this playbook could be applied to many different, small to mid-sized companies. Is we focused programming for those specific retailers to drive sales. And we did it within a 10-mile radius. And you can get very, very specific and very, very refined in your targeting, in your marketing programming. And what I called it was sort of hyper-local, right? So we hyper-local targeted these markets across the country based on demographics and buying behavior to drive sales.
Wow. And is that through like Facebook targeting? Because I know you can do a lot of, or is that through Google, just kind of paid ads, which was the better area that you worked with there?
So we did a couple of different things. It was really we did Facebook. We used Facebook analytics. We did targeting through Instagram, and Facebook and Instagram are the same company, so you can do similar analytic programs through them.
Yep.
But it's really about having someone who understands social media and how to drive targeting in social media. We also worked with I worked with a partner that helped us do local programs for each of the retailers so that I could do something specific. You could do something specific for Kroger store, something specific for Target. And if you work with a retailer, it also really helps drive sales and revenue because they know that you're supporting your brand with their targeted consumers. So it was really it was a multi-pronged approach. I wouldn't say it was just Facebook or just Instagram. It's really more of a holistic approach, which is really how you're going to get you're going to get the best results.
Awesome. Well, I think hopefully the audience has a lot of information here, Hannah, on how to improve their branding and positioning, but also, you got kind of deep into the marketing side too, which is a lot of times branding experts, may not get deep on that end as well, but you got a broad wealth of knowledge there. So thanks for sharing that with us. Why don't we just quickly finish up? I know you're the non-executive board member of PinchMe.com. You want to quickly share what PinchMe does? I was reading about it. It sounds really, really interesting. And I think companies can think about this maybe, especially with product reviews. And so I'd love to hear more about that.
Fantastic. Yes. So PinchMe.com is the largest direct-to-consumer sampling platform with over 6 million profiled members, primarily millennial moms. And as I mentioned, being an authentic brand, PinchMe.com is right in the heart of the largest spending power in the U.S., which is that millennial mom segment of consumers. And, we work with small brands. We work with up-and-coming entrepreneurs. We also work with larger companies like Johnson & Johnson, P&G, Kellogg's, and 3M. And really what we do is we leverage first-party consumer data to create a personalized sampling experience between a brand and their target consumer. And this leads to a 1 in 3 purchase rate. And one of the, as we started our conversation, we were talking about COVID-19. And the PinchMe.com platform is always, I've always believed in it. It's a fantastic platform, and it's just a real sweet spot in getting your brand in the hands of your targeted consumers. But it's even more important right now with COVID-19 going on, and people doing a lot more shopping online and wanting things to come to their home versus going out to the store to purchase products. We have a very high probability of converting to purchase post-trial. It's about a 1 in 3 purchase rate after they've completed, after they've sampled the product. And PinchMe.com has got, we also have an ability to aggregate reviews, ratings and reviews for products, both on a brand's website or on a retailer's website. And that is, when I first became involved with PinchMe.com about 6 years ago, that was ratings and reviews were just starting to take off. And now they are part of the entry point for a brand. That consumers are really looking to ratings and reviews as they make purchase decisions. With the COVID-19 environment going on right now, people are looking even more online for purchase information and to make purchase decisions. So being able to garner ratings and reviews is even more important than it was, a couple of months ago.
Sounds like an amazing program. Does it work for larger physical products, or is this mostly going to be, just because of costs and everything, mostly going to be for smaller, less costly to ship type of goods?
Generally, it's for smaller products that can be shipped. If it's a larger product, we have worked with larger products, and that would be kind of on a case-by-case scenario. And I'd love to be able to, talk to brands that are interested in something like that too. I know that we can, we'll work something out, but generally they are smaller items.
Yeah, sounds like a great platform and has huge reach. So awesome. Glad we were able to get that in here. And again, want to thank you for all of your wisdom here, Hannah. How can listeners work with you if they wanted to work with you on, helping improve their brand positioning, or maybe connect with you or learn more about you?
Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, Hannah Robbins, HANNAH ROBBINS, and would love to chat with you.
Awesome. Okay. I want to thank all of the audience for listening and joining us here on the Page One podcast, sponsored by Retail Band. And to the audience, I know, have a bunch of busy CEOs over there or leaders of your company. And how are your digital sales performing right now? Hopefully well, with COVID-19 pushing everybody to digital. But do you wish you had someone to create a custom strategic plan to grow your online sales and also help you execute it? That's what I do. So please find me at luke@retailband.com or on LinkedIn, and happy to help you take it from there. And again, hope you enjoyed this interview today. Truly appreciate reviews on iTunes, and hope you join us for the next interview. Take care.
Thanks for listening to the Page One podcast with Luke Peters. If you enjoyed this episode, please help us out by leaving us a rating on iTunes. Want to double your online sales? Check out www.retailband.com. And don't forget to join us next week with our next amazing guest.